Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Whiskey Sour Libations and Conversations. I'm your host, Dominique Lovings. Today is a very, I know I always say this, but it's a very special episode because I have somebody that knows me from the beginning of my time here on earth. Let's say that. And sometimes in life, friends become family, but what happens when your friends actually become your family? And we'll get more into that as we, connect today. She is a mother, she is an author, but most of all, she my cousin. So everybody, welcome to the stage, my boo, Chanee Hawkins Ash, Anderson. Then hey, listen, a whole plethora of names, okay? Because I'm like, okay.
Hey, Dom. Hey, everybody. How y'all doing today?
Hi, boo. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk to you today.
I'm so excited. It's been a long time coming because we really haven't seen each other except for recently at Miss Adams's birthday party. I can't tell you when the last time I saw you in real life.
It had been years. It had been years. And I don't think I realized because, we'll text here and there, social media. We have our church, our puppet people group chat. So I feel like I talk to you regularly, but
yeah,
it had been years. So I'm really glad we got to see each other. That was special.
Yeah, it was very, very heartwarming and touching. And we found out that we were actually related at my grandfather's wake. You saw your cousin there, like, oh, them your cousin. And I was like, oh, we already say that. So now it's now we're really bonded.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. You gotta go back though, because that don't that kind of don't make sense. You gotta go back. We have known each other since.
Yeah, I was gonna go there,
You was going. You said when? Sorry, my bad. Let me let you host. My bad.
This is my show. This is my show. You're the guest.
You're right. You're right. I'm the guest. I'm sorry.
See, this is how it is between us, right? For a lot of people that listen in, and if you're new here, now you'll know more about me and Chanee. We actually grew up going to the same church, and we were in a puppet ministry together. And in this puppet ministry, we have forged lifelong friendships while traveling all over the country to spread the word of God through puppets. So we traveling all over the country, taking trips together, praise trips together, and that is our origin story. And we just created, like a bond from there, and we are still friends with many other people from the puppet ministry, even as recent as celebrating the director, Mrs. Adams' 75th birthday party, which was a good old time. It was. So Chanee.
Yes, my dear.
Oh my gosh. It's so much happy because you know what? Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, Chanee, I probably have not seen you in real life in 15 years.
No.
It's really been because you left right after I left.
You know when it was? It was probably Melanie's funeral.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's been a while. That has been a while.
That was almost like 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah. So
yeah. So it's still even in that time, that's still a long time. And watching you grow into a wife.
I know, right? I'm a wife.
A mother.
Somebody's whole mama.
Somebody's whole mama.
Got a whole kid.
And meanwhile, I'm just practicing with a dog. Because that's the best. I'm gonna get anywhere I can.
That's a lot too. Like that right there is a lot too. So
yes. And just kind of finding your voice. You always had your voice, but really stepping into your purpose and finding your path has been fun to watch. Being a motivational speaker, you are a mentor, you can be someone's life coach. I need to be life coached.
Don't we all need to
be life coach. We all need to be therapized a little bit,
Absolutely.
So kind of take us on the journey from, again, because we just gave our origin, like our history, to where you are now.
Ooh, that's a long. I'm about to be 40. That's a long time. But no, because I think our origin story, it's so interesting, right? Because when I think about the puppet ministry, we started puppets when we were 5, 6 years old.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when I talk to Carrie, my husband, like I be trying to explain stuff to him from like my from before I knew him, and I'm like, you don't know. It's like puppet, like it's that like our puppet ministry experience and our childhood and our youth was such a pivotal point of just who I am as a person.
Yes.
Because it allowed me to have my own relationship with God, right? Like you hear a lot of people, particularly millennials, particularly black millennials, who have a lot of church hurt. And I'm
Yep.
not saying our church was perfect, but we had a really good, strong foundation of church and of what it meant to love God and to praise God. And we had the opportunity to praise God in a non-traditional way.
Yep.
And so through that process, like I felt like that's how I got to know, like my relationship with God formed through puppet minute, doing puppets, and through praise dance. Particularly miming. Like miming, like that was my ministry. Like miming was my ministry. And so it's interesting. Miming was such a part of my ministry. And now today I published my first book. We'll get on that later. But writing, so like this silence and this silence but expressive way. So I say all that to say that throughout my entire life, I've had this way of internally processing just who I am, what that means, how I want to show up in the world. And so let's see. So so I spent my time like kind of expressing that way through dance, through movement, through arts, through writing now. And even though I show up today, like, I show up really confident today. I show up really sure of who I am. I show up, really just knowing where I'm going, with the caveat that like you don't know anything because God will always switch some things up before you know it. But that wasn't always the case, right? Like I was, I grew up, I'm a little sister. So I've always grown up kind of, you know, as a little sister, as I won't say a follower, but being under somebody else's lead. And so I'm kind of, I took being a little sister on as part of my identity. But as I've grown, as I've evolved, both personally and professionally, through school, through academics, I think that's where a lot of my identity development came. First, it was church, then it was school, then professionalism. Like I feel like I am very much sure and certain of who I am, and also like just super excited to see who God is continuing to grow me into and evolve me into. So yeah.
And see, I love that answer. It's the journey to get to where we are today. And I can relate to a lot of those sentiments that you said in regards to being a little sister. On my side, I would end up kind of indirectly becoming a middle child just because of, everything that has happened in my life prior, and finding friends, being confident, the conversations I'm having with my mother regarding the world outside and how you act outside of this house as well. So, and that in part is also when we talk about puppet ministry and the lessons and the life lessons we were learning through the word of God, is in part of how we show up in the world. And
Mhm.
that gave me a lot of confidence. It also kept me grounded, uh, and gave us a crazy sense of discernment. Now, I'm not gonna say that I have not always been my best, right? I have done dumb things because I'm bored. Who hasn't? We're human. But on the flip side of that, I would say the Lord has kept me because, baby,
Absolutely.
oh my God, and that's it, that baby, but also it taught me in a sense how you develop relationships with people, how your friends really really do become your family, and how you can entrust these people with like your deepest darkest secrets, and these people might not necessarily, I mean, not judge you. No, we black, we gonna crack jokes, but
Right.
at
We
the end
might
of the
drive you, but we won't judge you.
right, we gonna drive you but not judge you. We drive, we don't judge. Absolutely. But there are things that I feel comfortable in like sharing with you guys, or and I'm pretty sure it's the same way for you. Uh, that you might not, say to anybody else, and because we created that relationship with each other, that my friends are literally my family. I talk to
Mhm.
y'all more than I talk to anybody else in my family. Like you said, we in a chat, we talking every day, sending memes or whatever. Um, and that's important because you know we talk about the concept of church hurt, but then family hurt because they
Mhm.
have their own issues and they won't pay the lady and lay on the couch. That's neither here or there. But when you have a strong sense of friendship,
Mhm.
it becomes it be it. I mean, it drives you as a person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say, you mentioned dropping a book today.
I did. I dropped the book today.
Yes.
Yes.
So I want to, the title of your book is The Ache You Can't Outperform, a high achiever's compass for purposeful alignment in life and leadership. So I'm going to get all in your business a little bit without, going in too deep into the book because you
Mhm.
want people to buy it and support you. All right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
is that fair?
That's fair. I
So,
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
okay. So I want to say, the first question is this. You write about the ache you can't outperform. What does that ache actually feel like in real life?
Ooh.
Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Ooh, that's a good question. The ache is this the ache is this feeling of, you might show up polished, you might be getting the degrees, you might whatever you're doing, like you might be getting the roles, you might be getting the jobs, you might be getting the degrees, the husbands, the houses, the kids, the whatever. And in the world, you looking pretty good, right? Like when they say you checking all the boxes on paper, you're checking all the boxes, but there's still this like this subtle but very noticeable feeling of like, yeah, that's not it. Like there has to
Mhm,
be more. It's kind of this like I've described it as like a cloud. Like if y'all remember those like those commercials back in the day of like the depression medicine, like that kind of dark cloud that
mhm.
like that's what the ache is. It's like no matter what you do, no matter how many boxes you check, no matter how great you look on the outside, there's this feeling that there is still something more inside of you. Like there is this purpose that is in you that you've tried to accomplish your way to or accomplish your way through, and it just doesn't, like you can't reach it.
Do you think in part of that sometimes because I'm processing what you're saying,
Mhm.
and potentially that being, high functioning depression. A lot of that is not being able to sit still and allow yourself to bask in your blessings because you chasing the very next best thing.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. I actually I write about that in my prologue where I talk about all the blessings that I had. I'm actually write about I open the book talking about my birthday, my 31st birthday, and I like list all these blessings that I had, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is great," and it was my birthday, and I was like, I'm sad. Can y'all please just stop calling me? Can we just end this day right now? Because I didn't feel like I could celebrate. But it goes back to what you just said is that we're all, especially high achievers, right? Like we're always trying to accomplish this, accomplish that, go over this, um, you know, grow ourselves, better ourselves, be better. That we don't stop and just look around and be like, wow, like God has already done some amazing things in my life. I've already done some amazing things and let me just bask in that. We don't do that because we're always chasing the next thing.
Yep, absolutely. I found myself yesterday. I got a early birthday text message,
Mhm.
and the person, my friend was like, you're just as beautiful as when I met you, and saying all these different things, great things. And I finally had to say, I was like, you know what? I've never said this aloud, but I'm proud of me. I'm proud of me at this
Mm.
moment. And I've never said that to myself. I don't want to
Mhm.
cry, but I'm also ovulating. Uh, but but in that, like saying that because it's just the little milestones and like like you said, God will do something and redirect you and make you be topsy turvy. But in being a person that experiences bouts of depression and anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
um, doing certain things to reel you back to reality and dial you back, and you are resting in that gratitude. I always remember to be grateful. That's what helped me a lot during my unemployment, um where I was like waking up grateful every day, understanding the slow morning, taking my time making the coffee, reading my book, or or working on whatever, or even if I just want to doom scroll. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was that, and I was like, I'm grateful because where I wasn't necessarily happy, and whatever is next, come what may. But also
Mm-hmm.
just getting back to myself, because in this life, in especially in American culture, like you said, it's a rat race.
Mm-hmm.
We, tend to lose ourselves sometimes. Uh, trying to get to that higher ground, whatever next looks like for us, that we
Mm-hmm.
forget to just be present. And that
Mm-hmm.
creates that anxiety because it's like, okay, I did this, but what's next? Da, 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 da. And it's like, this probably won't happen, and this won't even happen. And now I'm having an anxiety attack about something
Mm-hmm.
that will never, ever, ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's having to check yourself and redirect. But I was proud of myself yesterday for saying, I was like, damn, I've never said that aloud. But girl, I'm proud of me.
Oh, you
I
should
like that.
be. You should be. Kind of going back to, thinking about that, like going back to our childhood. There were times where it's so funny because like I watch each of us, like, each of us, we said this is what we wanted to do. And I distinctly remember there was one time we were at outside of some some restaurant and you said you wanted to model or do something, and one of us was like, Dominique, find a real career. And look at you, like look at you today, right? Again, we weren't judging you, we drove you because I mean we were what, 12, 13, 14, just being ruthless and reckless with our mouths. But you said what you wanted to do, and regardless of everything that happened, you've done those things. Like you were
Yeah.
one of the most beautiful people that I know. Like, and
Okay.
you photograph well. Well, go ahead and cry, girl, which I'll be late myself. but but like you said what you wanted to do, thinking about your sister, right? Like Janelle, she used to draw stuff on napkins and whatever piece of paper she had, and
She's her father's
she's not the kid
child.
to find it, right? Like
Yep. Look at
crying,
Ryan.
right?
Girl, okay, because let me tell you something. Let me
Can we just like if you think about that, right? Like but all of us, every single one of us has had bouts of depression, bouts of self-doubt, bouts of unemployment, or I won't even say unemployment, but between employment, between seasons where we're like, okay, what's happening? Am I good enough? Am I, this enough? Am I gonna make it? And yet we've done so many things and we just talk about it like, we just run through it like none of it happened. So
yeah.
yeah.
It's so crazy. Because when I talk about the whole concept of puppets, and I tell people, I was like, oh, I can do, or me and my friends, we can do what they do on Sesame Street. We get the base, or we watch something with puppets in class, and I'm like, ooh, that person fighting their words, and they're like, what? I was like, never mind, it's puppet talk, it's puppet talk. But it's also in dating someone that knows how obsessed I am with puppets
Mhm.
and Barbies. Uh, but you know, randomly one day he sent me a link like, hey, there's like a puppet troupe out here. Um, and like I'll pay for your membership if it's something that you want to do. And then I was like, oh, this sounds really cool. And then I took a step back. Everybody not cool puppeteers like us, sis. And then I was like, I don't want to be, amongst the weirdos. But if it's anything with puppets, he knows. Like I'm, like he's when
Oh,
the
that's so
gym.
sweet.
That's when he wants to be. I have a very pragmatic partner, so I have to take the little things.
Oh, girl, I understand.
Yeah,
Trust me.
I'm like, whew, that's romance for them. So, oh, I found you this. You know,
This
um,
course that you should sign up
yeah,
for.
yeah, you should. Yeah. Oh, girl, I'm be sending you voice notes every day now that I know that. But it's one of those things where it's funny because like it doesn't always look like how you expected it to look, but you're seeing, bits and pieces of it. And when you want to give up, you keep pushing forward because it's
Absolutely.
just a step away. And one thing that I had to remind myself during that stint of unemployment was to water the seeds that I forgot that I planted.
Mm.
And
Yes. The
so,
ones you forgot
uh,
you planted.
yeah, that I forgot
That's
that I
right.
planted. And so in that it was so the clip that I posted where everybody was asking, "What show is this? What show are you on? You look so good. You see you're." And I was like, "Oh, this was a project. Airbnb has these experiences where you're able to do certain things." So one of the experiences was acting. It was an acting course, and it was like a day in the life of working on this, being on a sitcom. So you came
Mhm.
in, you did a table read. I had a dressing room, um, and then we acted out the scene. They emailed you the script, all these things. And so I work with Bentley Evans, and Bentley Evans is responsible. He's the executive producer. Uh, of the Martin Lawrence show, the Martin back in the day in the
Mhm,
90s, and then you get
mhm,
Jamie Foxx and a whole bunch of other shows that he's produced as well. So in developing, like, you making new friends or whatever. And so I took that, but then also taking a course because I have a lot of friends in comedy, and they've been pushing me to do stand up. And Arvin actually was like, "I think I could, I might be able to coach you a little bit, but
mm,
you gotta potty mouth. You gotta dial that back a little bit." And I'm like, "Boy, F you." No, no, but but I say all that to say,
mhm,
and this was just for me telling Arvin like just a random story. We're at a bar. It's like a whole
mhm,
big group of us, and I'm telling him a story, and he said he got that from that story.
mhm,
And one of the Wayans hit me up and was like, You sure you don't do stand up?" And I have a friend that has been pressing me. And
mhm,
he was the first person I called after I did that Airbnb experience at the Laugh Factory,
mhm,
where and Janelle's performed as well, where we went
mhm,
in, we wrote jokes. The comedian Lulu, she tagged them up, and then we performed them. Gave us
mhm.
feedback, and then we performed them in front of an audience. So it was so
Mm,
much fun. And I called BT. I was like, shout out to him. I was like, "You're never gonna guess what I just did."
mhm,
So it is again the seeds that you forgot,
mhm,
and that
mhm.
you needed to water and nurture. And so in doing that, I'm like, this is what I like.
Uh-huh,
This is what brings me joy.
uh-huh,
It feels good. It feels effortless.
mhm. Ooh, ooh, that's how you know it's purposeful, right? Like, one of the things that, people always ask me, like, how do you know when you're walking in your purpose? And I tell them, like, first of all, your purpose is not a destination. Like, it's not this one thing that you be like, oh, yes, I found my purpose. It's something that you're always doing. And you'll know that what you're doing is purposeful because it feels easy. It feels I take that back. Nope. It does not feel easy. It does not always feel easy, but it does feel easeful. Like it
Mhm,
flows. It's not like, you don't feel trepidation. You don't feel a lot of doubt. You feel like, oh, okay, I can do this, right? Like that's when you have moments like that, that's what you should tap into. Those moments where you're just like happy and full of joy. Like that's what you should tap into because those are signs that you are doing things that are in alignment with who you are created to be. Actually, when I think about the book, I've been a writer my whole life, right? Like I
mhm.
started writing poetry
Why
and
do I remember
prose
that?
when I was in middle school, love letters, in the seventh grade and stuff like that, right? Um, and I've always loved writing. I was an English major in college. Then I went on to get my PhD in education policy, but I've always loved writing. But the more you go through academic writing, the less
Mhm.
creative you get to be. You got to write to
Yep.
a certain standard. And so I've always known I've wanted to write a book. Always. I never knew exactly what the like times I thought I knew what the books were going to be about, but I didn't know. And so my family moved, we moved to Dallas last year. And when I tell you I thought I was gonna hit the ground running, like I was like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna watch this, I'm gonna check this box, and I'm gonna check this box, and I'm gonna check this box. And then I realized I was allergic to Dallas. And so I was sick for the first 7 months. And I was like, oh, God said, okay, sit down. And I was like, I'm sitting down. Like, what am I supposed to do? Then a lot of the consulting contracts that I thought I was going to have, like because they were, because I did a lot of work or do a lot of work in DEI, a lot of those things went away unexpectedly. So my prayer became, I felt myself getting sad again. And I was like, no, I've been here. Like I've been in this place before where I didn't know what was going to happen. And then it ended up being better than what I thought it would be. So going back to plant those seeds that you forgot that you planted, or water those seeds you forgot you planted. So my prayer was, God, what do you want from me in this season?
Mhm.
In this season, what is it that you want me to do? And I've been writing off and on for the past year semi-seriously. But once I started praying that prayer, this book, I'm gonna show you a book. This is the book that came to life, right? Like this right here is the book that came. And I'm like, oh, that's why God told me to sit down. That's why the things that I thought were going, that I wanted, I was like, oh yes, this is the dream. Like God was like, nope, you
Nope.
planted seeds. I planted seeds in you a long time ago. It's time for us to water those.
Mhm.
And that's what happened. So this is my encouragement to you or to anybody who was watching. Don't give up. Remember though, take this from Dominique. Remember those seeds that you planted and nurture them and water them and watch them flourish. And when it feels good, when it feels joyful, when it feels easeful, not easy, but when it feels like, okay, things are starting to move around and it's making a way for this, like that's when you know that you are doing the things that you were designed and created for.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Oh my. I just have to sit in that for a second because it feels so good to hear those, those words and words of encouragement. And, I also remember scrolling and someone was saying, oh, I was looking in the mirror every day and I was saying to God, show me how good it can get. And
Mm.
girl,
Mm.
and when I started to do that, I started to notice a shift in my behavior. And when so I started every day on, it's like some page I'm subscribed to on Instagram. Every day I get a devotional, like a word to my inbox, and I get up. That's the first thing I do in the morning. If it's there when I get up. Today it wasn't there when I got up. But
Y'all send it. She's struggling. She need that word. So whoever you are, send it.
right, because it helps you, especially going in, into that classroom with those kids. Oh my gosh, those sped kids. But also in that journey, it's just that you realigning yourself and you're recentering yourself and you're listening. And my mom always used to say this thing to me, like and not be still, but it's like taking a moment to be still so you can hear the whisper, which is God talking to you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that I've been very, very proactive about recently. And just being still so I can hear what God is saying to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which helps me, on my journey in this, thing here called life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
girl, look at us
Look at
preaching.
us. We grown. Oh,
I
Miss
know,
Helen would be so proud.
girl. Hello.
Yes. Yes.
Was there ever a moment in your own life where success stopped feeling like success? Oh,
Absolutely.
okay.
I just wrote a whole book about that. No, absolutely. I don't want to give it away, but like you were asking me all the questions that you were asking me, I write about in the book and like actually in my prologue. Like this is what my prologue is about: is when success stopped feeling like success because it didn't feel good. I was accumulating the success, but I didn't feel it. Like it didn't feel like success. Like everybody was proud of me, and I'm like, well, thank you. And this
Right.
just didn't feel like it because I didn't feel like was. I didn't feel like I was one fully who I like. I knew I could be more. I knew I could, and I'm not saying like accumulate more things, but I knew I could do more. I knew that the imprint could be more. It could be more authentic. It could be more impactful in ways that felt good not only to me but to others. So yes, absolutely, there was times where success didn't feel good. Mm-hmm.
Definitely relatable content. Well, okay. This is a question. I think this is a really great question because I know it'll give a little insight to your book, but also just to life in general. And I want to ask you, what is the difference between being tired and being misaligned? I
Y'all, have
know,
you
I
read
know
the book? Have
they're
you
gonna
read
buy
the
the
book?
book. They're gonna buy the book.
No, but like, have you read? Because you asking me. Okay, I'm gonna guess she didn't read the book because it just came out 48 hours ago.
Because
Um,
you didn't send me an early copy. It's signed,
I
but it's
didn't. I didn't.
I'm gonna
I
buy
didn't.
I'll buy
I
the book.
didn't.
Okay.
Yes, and I'll sign it. You buy it and I'll sign it.
Okay, thank
Um, absolutely. What is the difference between? They're not either or. They're both and. Um, because when you are not in alignment, you are more tired, right?
you.
So when you're tired, it's just you need some rest. That's you. That's you. When you're tired, you need some rest. Like, for instance, I know that what I am doing right now with this book, with my family, with my etc., whatever's going on, it feels like I'm moving in alignment. I'm
Mhm.
tired, right? Trying to get this book done, trying to, be bossed around by a 4-year-old all day. Like, I'm tired, but when I rest, I feel rejuvenated.
Yeah.
When you're not aligned, there is no amount of rest. There's no amount of sleep that you can get that's going to ease that tiredness, because it just becomes like you recognize it's soulful misalignment. That's not just, tired is just, oh, I need some more rest. I need to, listen to my body and nourish myself. But when you're misaligned, you need to listen to your soul. And you can sleep all you want to. And typically, when we are misaligned, we sometimes do a lot more sleeping because we just don't feel motivated to do anything else. But when we're misaligned, that's a tired that seeps through your bones, it seeps in your soul and in your spirit. Um, so yeah,
And
misalignment makes you tired.
it does. And I want to speak to that in a sense because when we go back to chasing certain things or whatever and how
Mm-hmm.
things are supposed to look, and you talk about that box checking,
Mm-hmm.
and now you are, you're tired, like, what is this? Even though you might have thought this was the path that you were supposed to take, but you're feeling all these residual of negative effects.
Mm-hmm.
you you might need to regroup and pivot into something
Mm-hmm.
else,
Mm-hmm.
because like you said, like the things that bring you joy, that fill your spirit, should not make you feel depleted.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is something you still love, then you need to go and move to a place where you are appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
and that could look like anything. You starting your own business, or you just going to work for another company, because you have people that do thoroughly enjoy
Mm-hmm.
working for people. It's not
Mm-hmm.
always bad people. For people that the people talks crap about, I'm like, don't do that. There are some
Mm-hmm.
people that really enjoy that, and that's for y'all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
um, you talk about a little bit of unlearning inherited behaviors. What is one belief about success that you talk about unlearning inherited beliefs, right? What's one
Mm-hmm.
belief about success that the most high achievers don't realize they're operated from? Don't cuss me out, because I know it's in the book. I know it's in the book, but can you give
But
me
no. That question is, like that. I don't ever like this question is actually not giving away anything in the book. Well, I'm about to talk about it, but it's kind of stumping me because I don't name one thing, right? Like what you've learned about success, what you've identified as this is, or not identified, but what you learned about success might be different from what I've learned about success, or what might be
right?
different from what somebody else has learned about success, right? So I think what we tend to do is we tend to take other people's ideas of what success looks like and then try to apply that to ourselves, or see ourselves through that lens, and not recognize that what might work for somebody else, that's not in alignment with what I'm supposed to do. So I think like that's the biggest thing that we have to unlearn, is that what works for us works for us. Like what and everything, it's not necessarily a Christian book, but it's definitely driven by my faith. But like what God created for me, God created for me. And so it might look crazy to you, it might look irresponsible to your mama, or my mama, it might look like reckless to somebody else. But if this is what I feel God is calling me to do, then I need to recognize that that's what success is and unlearn the idea that, well, it doesn't work for everybody else. So it must not be right for me.
Absolutely. And also the concept of everybody's doing that, so I can't do it.
That
So
part.
it doesn't look
Mhm.
the same. What
Yep.
if Rihanna said that? We wouldn't have had Fenty with a million different colors of foundation for people that look
Mhm.
like us.
And I'm wearing Fenty 420 right now, baby, because I love it. So I'm glad Rihanna didn't say, oh,
420,
everybody else is doing
I might be a little warmer than 420 now.
it. Well,
I
I'm
was I was
420. Yes.
in unlearning behaviors in your own personal life, what is something that you kind of had to reassess that might have been instilled from you to you at an early age?
Imposter syndrome. Like that's like hands down, that's the answer to that question. Imposter syndrome. I And now that actually going back, I don't know if I never felt like an imposter anywhere. I never felt like I didn't belong. I just felt like I wasn't good enough, or that, somebody would think that I wasn't good enough, or somebody would call me, something like that. But I think that's probably the biggest thing I had to unlearn was imposter syndrome. And when I tell you imposter syndrome, like kind of became a part of my identity. Like if you remember, you've watched me grow on social media, you've watched me watched my lessons and my message evolve. Like there was a whole time where I talked about imposter syndrome so much, like I was the imposter syndrome coach. And I was doing that as I was suffering from imposter syndrome, or like thinking like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. But I think that's the biggest lesson. And it's so crazy because throughout my entire writing of this book, imposter syndrome never came up. Now, there were times where I doubted. There were times where I was like, ooh, I might not be able to finish this. But I never felt like I was unqualified to do it. I never felt like I was too small to do it, or I wasn't the right person to do it. So that's been the biggest one I've had to unlearn.
It's interesting you bring up imposter syndrome, because I know it's been like we'll say buzzword in the last
Mhm.
like maybe like 10 years. And I
Mhm.
always look when black people tell me that they have imposter syndrome, I'm always very perplexed because I look at the person, especially if I have like hearing you say that, I'm like, but you're worthy of being in those spaces. And I remember having to say that to my homegirls, like, you don't have that. I was like, girl, I didn't even know that was a thing until y'all kept saying it to me. I'm like, I deserve to be there because I worked hard. And so why do
Mhm.
you feel like because you look different from the people in the room, or you speak different, or whatever it is, you show up different than everybody else. You stand out. You deserve to be there. Now go
Mhm.
on and go kill that shit. I'm sorry. I didn't mean this curse.
It's okay, Dominique. You grow. You about to be 39. You can say shit. It's okay.
Oh my gosh. Don't remind me. I cannot believe that, by the way.
Mhm.
That's
Girl, I'm
crazy.
about to be 40. Your birthday, then my birthday, then your sister's, and then right.
Yeah, that's crazy. Always think of that from the perspective of, wow, I think 30s hit different once I hit more so 32 because that's when my mom died. And so
Mhm.
for me, is that gonna happen to me so young? So there's
Mhm.
the anxiety to that. And it's like I'm creating scenarios that don't exist. I think about death a lot, but I also experienced it so young, right?
Yeah.
At 6 months. So I probably need to pay the lady and lay on the couch to talk about that and get some exercises to work through that.
You haven't paid no lady to talk. Dominique, you gotta talk about that. You gotta talk about that. Cause
Oh,
that
but you know what? A lot of it is self-reflection. I do a lot of self-reflection. Um, I look up stuff and read a lot about
Mhm.
different things. So,
Mhm.
yeah, like, yeah, I no, I did in college. I had a stint of where I was going to therapy.
Mhm.
But I'm not anti. No, no, I'm not anti at
I know
all.
you're not, but I
Yeah.
just I know you're not. But the reason that I say that, I know you are definitely pro therapy, but I recognize, now that I'm getting older, especially as a parent, right? I know that with you losing your mom so young to the point where you have no recollection of her, there's a part of your identity that is there's this void. I mean, you've had family, you've had your mom, your earthly mom filling into that, fill in for that, but there's still a part of you that you just won't ever know. And I'm sure that
Absolutely.
that's I can only imagine how tough it is. So yeah.
Funny enough, you say that. For the first time, this past weekend, I talked to my dad about that
Mm.
because
Mhm.
we were speaking about um, whatever it was, him meeting new siblings from his paternal side, like about 10 years ago. And he was explaining to me how his half siblings felt foreign to him. Like he still felt like he's like, this still feels really weird to me. And I was like, do you think that it's more so to do with your dad being absent? Um, and so he was like, yeah, probably, like, cause how you have these kids and you just go about your life like the four of us didn't exist,
Mhm.
which they found out it was four, not two, by the way, that were
Mhm.
full siblings,
Mhm.
to this man. And, like just these other things about you, because he can't find that because he raised, he was there for us. Like, though he told us the story behind us going to live with, Lucretia and everything and whatnot. So in that, I was telling him, I was like, "Oh, so funny you say this is because like I feel that way about mom. Nobody." I was like, "Yeah, kind of act as if, yeah, we just dropped on Earth like we was Spider Man
Mm.
or something,
Mhm.
or Superman. That would be Superman's origin story that he's sent to Earth. Kind of like Jesus. Wait a second, is that the
I mean, Jesus didn't just fall into earth. Jesus was birthed to Mary. He didn't just fall into earth.
I
Yeah.
was like, but I say all that to say, um, and I was like kind of telling him, I was like, no one ever had a conversation with me about
Mm.
the situation as a
Mhm.
kid. And I was like, I thought maybe something happened that maybe Lucretia wasn't my like logical mom. Um, but what did it was, and I told him something that I had never told anybody,
Mhm.
which was that my granny, my maternal grandmother, got mad at pretty sure my mom
Mhm.
and said to me out of spite, and that's not your mother. Your mother is dead. And I
That's
never
when you found out?
that's yeah, my granny said that to me. So I told my dad that for the first time this past Saturday, and I never told Lucretia that. And
Wow.
then so now having confirmation, you're processing things differently. And then
Mhm.
I remember in kindergarten, Carlos Gibbons, I'ma find you and I'ma trip you one day. But whatever it was, we were in computer class and the teacher probably redirected us to do something. I was doing it and he lied and hollered out, "Oh, Miss Dixon, she said that's why your mom did." So I'm like a 4 or 5 year old trying to explain to the teacher that I didn't say this. You're not listening because all you know is what this kid said. And I'm like, I would never say that to you because my mom is dead. And
Mhm.
he's not trying to hear it. And I
Was his
felt like,
mom dead?
no, that fat roly poly.
Okay,
Um,
she don't mean that, Carl. Whatever your name is, Carlos Gibbons. She don't mean yeah, she don't. Mm-mm, mm-mm,
mhm. And so no,
mm-hmm.
and the teacher's mom was dead. Absolutely. The teacher's mom was dead.
Oh, the
And
teacher's
so
mom was
so
dead.
so her feelings were hurt. So I'm sorry, I misunderstood your
Okay,
question.
okay, okay.
So her mom was dead, and I'm like, so is mine. And so all you know is that you see this woman come and pick me up that you assume
Mhm,
because I call her mom and you're not listening to me and you think I'm trying to cover my ass, but it really wasn't that. It
mhm.
was like I would never joke about that. That's
Yeah.
just so mean.
Mhm.
So, and so he was like, wow, like and he was just kind of, he kind of had to sit with that for a second.
Yeah.
And, I was like, so because now at this age, it forces me into a level of maturity that I'm not necessarily ready for, or because I have to be mindful of not just myself, but other people.
Mhm.
And so in that, like I always, though I had friends that had their parents, both their parents, or some, one parent, I always found myself being really good friends with the people that was a part of the Dead Moms Club like me,
Mhm.
so it was definitely interesting, to say the least. But I will say, in talking to my dad about that, that felt really good to just finally be honest with him, and him
Mm.
finally being transparent with me about his upbringing.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. But
Yeah.
no, it's
Well,
interesting. I think about you and I think about y'all a lot, and not knowing you all's mom. And I love seeing pictures of your mom, your birth mom, because it's so interesting. Like, you know, growing up, I didn't think you and Janelle looked alike at all. But when I saw that picture of your birth mom and Lucretia outside of church, I was like, or in church, I was like, I see both of them. I love seeing that picture of her. So yeah.
yeah, it is. It's funny because I grew up thinking my sister did not look like me either. And even now, I'm like, man, but it'll be certain things that I know we sound alike, uh, when we speak, but and the other thing that I said to my dad was, it's simply what you said. There's a void that's there.
Mhm.
Why do I do this? Or why I act like that? Yeah, I can see, myself and you. You're this huge social butterfly. You like to entertain people, but there are other
Mhm.
parts of me where it's just kind of foreign to me. And I just,
Mhm.
you know, it, I just assume that it's something that I inherited from my mom. And
Mhm.
that's
And
how I
you'll
get
that sucks because you'll never know. Like you'll never know. And it's so interesting because as a parent now, especially, he's 4, so he's really coming into his personality. And I can look at Clark and I can be like, "Oh, they're like, this is my child. Like this right here is my child." Um, I can tell that he does some things a lot like his dad, and then there are some things that are just who he is. And so being able to see that, I'm sure you're like, "Oh, there are parts of you that are probably just like Jennifer."
Yeah,
And you'll never know. So
I'll
that's
never know.
interesting.
And it's funny because when we talk about conditioning and
Mhm.
in life, there are things that I know that because I grew up in Lucretia's house, where it's like, "Oh, I
That's
get that
crazy.
from her," because it's
Uh-huh.
learned behavior. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of them are really, great traits, and the other one I'd be like, "Oh, child, why do I gotta procrastinate like her? Like, I don't want to be a procrastinator," you
Uh-huh.
know? And I would say that's probably the worst trait is just procrastinating. Everything else is cool. Like, I don't mind having to, correct somebody, or, like having the knowledge about something. Um,
Mhm.
that's a great trait to me.
Mhm.
Um, but it's definitely for sure interesting. And I do like where, even in having hardships from times like you butt heads with your parents. But I do like the relationship that I have developed with, like Lucretia a lot. It took a
Mhm.
while to get there. A lot of we talk about unlearning behavior, her
Mhm.
having to unlearn things as well as a big old adult.
Mhm.
Uh,
'Cause here's the crazy part, and it's interesting now, as an adult and being close with my mom, right? Like, our mothers are products of the relationship they had with their
yep,
mothers, right?
absolutely.
And we believe in going on, paying the lady to sit on the couch or the man to sit on the couch, right? But that's not what was the case in our generation.
Yep.
They have so much unprocessed childhood trauma that they're dealing with, that because like I know that part of the way that my mom raises me and expresses love to my sister and myself is because of the experience and the relationship she had with her mother growing up.
Mhm.
And so, our mothers are mothering the best that they can, because we've all inherited things over the years. And it's a process of, in our big adult selves, determining, okay, which of these lessons am I going to hold on to? And which of these just don't fit anymore? And which ones
Yep,
am I going to let go? So,
absolutely. And you had a
Mhm,
really great grandmother. Like, I loved your grandma.
mhm,
And, in her passing recently, I was like, "Damn, man." Like, Shanae and Sean had a really good, because she was I just always remember her being there.
mhm.
And she was always there, and I don't ever really remember you ever even say anything crazy about your grandma. Meanwhile, I'm over here fighting mine.
But here's the thing, right? Like, and Lord rest her soul. I love my grandmother so much. I would not be who I am but for her. I write about her in the book. But she she was kind of mean sometimes. Like she could be mean. And a lot of people
Yeah.
didn't know, especially people who knew her at church. Like, you know, she was, she's very sweet. Like people, yeah, she was sweet. She was feisty though. That lady was feisty.
I
But
mean, yes.
yes, she was feisty. But my grandmother and I, we butted heads. Like I eulogized her and I said, my sister was her favorite. I've known that my whole life. My sister was her favorite. They share a birthday. They shared a birthday. So, but me and my grandmother butted heads so much when I was growing up. Like so much as I was growing up. And she would tell my mama, I can't stand her. And I'd be like, well, I can't stand her either. So like we would like, but these are the things. But then there are parts of me that I see that I got from her.
Mhm.
I'm like, that's just, I mean, even to this day, up until she passed, she would always say, like every single time I called her, she'd be like, Chanee, well, you don't ever call me. And I'm like, well, how do you think we just got on the phone? Like, and I had to get to the
And I
point
just talked to you.
now, I called you. That's how we talking. But every time I would call her, she's like, you don't never call me. And I used to just finally have to tell her, like, Granny, I'm not doing this with you today. How are you? Like we not going there. We just
'Cause
don't
she
talk.
missed
How are you?
you.
And she would just laugh. And she would just laugh. Right. She would just laugh. So yeah.
Because what she need to say and Dorothy need to say, "I missed you." That's
Mm-hmm.
all. And so they have a weird way of showing it. I was really close to my dad's my paternal grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And and I used to call her a lot on the way when I would go to Webster, in the morning, we would talk on the phone. And she had a stroke, so her speech was slurred, so I would have to, like, be patient trying to figure out what she was saying to me, because I was like, "Uh-huh, grandma, yeah." Like, there was a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I would just never forget, like, and I've never got in trouble
Mm-hmm.
about my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I was rightfully I was one of the favorites. And it was obvious. And I remember one time I had an aunt ask me for $50, and she was like, "Oh, I'll pay you back." And girl, my grandma was sitting there with them big old eyes, like, "You bet, like, don't you do it. She ain't
So,
ever gonna give you no money." She never paid me back. Uh,
Granny knew, grandma knew, they
I
always
like
knew.
she just bought me a skirt. She likes buying stuff for us, and I'm like, "Girl, we don't want that." But she
Mm-hmm.
did give me she bought me a skirt recently. She's like, "Well, this is I want to get you just he sold out." And I was like, "Thank God."
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's different, and you are absolutely correct. Like, it is our parents learning they're doing the best they can with what they had and what they experienced, and then, like, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. Um and part of that, recently, it was like in the last couple years, I remember my mom saying that she found herself finally missing, like, her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, by this time, like, my granny, had been dead for damn near 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so but part of her kind of felt guilty. And I told her, I said, "No, you have the right to feel everything that you're feeling. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but guilt is not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You experienced a lot,
Mm-hmm.
a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
so you had took the time, you had all these years to process this, to sit with that, to think
Mm-hmm.
about what that was." I said, "But what you're not gonna do is feel guilty or angry at yourself because it took you so long. You
Mm-hmm.
here now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here now."
Mm-hmm.
So it is, so, it's funny how the tables turn and you parent your parents.
Girl,
Well,
that
for us, I feel like for them, they were much older when it was happening, but for us, it's younger. But I think it
Mhm.
is because a lot of us are able to unlearned behavior. We're reading more, we're taking a step back, and we're able to have a community of people that allows us to help process
Mhm,
certain things as well. Like
mhm.
if honestly, if I went back to school, I would go back to school for therapy,
Me
take a
too.
therapist.
But I'm done with school. I ain't going no more school.
Girl,
I no.
I've been done with school since I walked across that damn stage in 2010, okay?
Mhm.
They got what they got, and that's what they gonna get.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I did apply to grad school and got in. I was like, "I don't wanna do this,"
Mhm,
to make somebody else happy. I'm
mhm,
not interested in that. But I think in that journey and even, talking to our parents more and getting more information and learning, their stories and what happened to them,
mhm,
so much more makes sense about how we were raised or, lack thereof in some
mhm,
cases, not for us because we was
mhm,
raised, might have
mhm.
been disciplined and strict, but
Right.
it makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. So, in that,
Mhm.
how much of our ambition is actually ours and how much is inherited performance?
Ooh. Ooh. I mean, again, I can't quantify that because it might be different for some people versus, others, right? Like, for instance, I think, like, we talk about the people that we know. We talked about Ryan briefly earlier. Like, I believe that Ryan's ambition is okay, I'll give him 99.9% he is, right? Like, Ryan has been doing the same thing since I've known him since I was a baby. See, he's been doing the same thing since he was a baby, since he had me dressing up in his mama's driveway as Dorothy while he played, and Justin was the lion, and Ryan was every other character there was, right? Like, of the Wizard of Oz. Right? And I think, like, he did that. And also, his parents supported him in that. His parents made sure he
Yeah,
was, did
that's
drama
the
stuff and,
key.
and did that, right? Like, but then his grandmother is the friend that we're talking about. His grandmother and my grandmother are actually sisters. But, like, his grandmother was a world traveler, and she
Mhm.
was, she was born in the 30s, right?
Yeah,
So,
love
she was a
baby.
world traveler, an educator. She, so he that was fostered. When I think about my own upbringing, like, his grandmother bought me. I'll never forget this. One of my favorite gifts, she got me, Justin, and Ryan, like, little storybooks where we were the characters as kids, right? Like, so just
Oh,
anyway,
I
though,
remember
from a young
that.
age, that was back in the 90s, right? Like, so, but from a young age, the way that you nurture and foster that as a parent determines how much of your child's, or, if you were the child, how much of your ambition is yours or not. And then oftentimes we're still trying to make those people proud. We're trying to
Mhm.
you know, make those people proud, survive living in the world, get the job, make the bosses proud, make our clients proud, whoever we're trying to make proud. The ambition is still driven by some external forces, whether we want it to be or not. Like, we can't avoid that.
Yeah,
That's just
yeah.
humanness.
Man, I remember that. I remember y'all talking about those books, and I think a lot of it goes back to, again, we talk nature versus nurture, and like on the flip side, though we were in puppet ministry, and I would say my dad was really because he's a creative, and
Mhm,
my mom is definitely more logical, pragmatic, and so education is all they knew because that's how my grandfather was with them, and my
mhm,
mom. And so when I was expressing interest in the arts and wanted to do certain things, it was like, you gotta go to school, you gotta get an education. I remember, and I talk about this all the time, like hearing an ad for Model Search America,
mhm.
and my
Oh, okay.
dad took us.
Mhm,
And Janelle and I both got selected to go to this conference, but there was a model that was signed to, like, I think IMG or whatever, helping them scout people.
mhm,
And she was like, I really feel like Dominique is gonna get selected and like they're gonna have a bidding, like they're gonna fight for her.
mhm,
Baby, Mel ripped out that checkbook so quick. And it
mhm,
was like she had gave like me like this steep discount. and where it was like we was just really pretty much having to pay for lodging. And
Mhm.
he was like, "Man, let me go home and ask their mom." And my mom said no. She's like, "Well, Carla said they would have to pay for everything." And I was like, "You're a dream crusher." That's how I kind of looked at it. And then now it's like people telling you know so much, and at this big age, unlearning that like it's okay. This is my journey. This is not their journey. So
Mhm.
now at my big age of 39, like figuring it out and moving outside of my comfort zone and working through that fear of
Mhm.
so I can live the life that I want to live. Cause now
Mhm.
it's just kind of like, hey, they take anybody at any age, acting, all of that, and I still don't look a day over 25 for real. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. It's like, interesting. I love that. And seeing kids like having um, nieces and a nephew, from my adopted brother,
Mhm.
like really, really catering to them and in that space and being able to talk to them and
Mhm.
push them forward. And it's so cool. It's such a really cool experience to be able to do that and
Mhm.
just really pour into them. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying, Mom, I'm not saying you didn't pour into me. You
Mhm.
poured into the books, but like you poured
Absolutely,
into the
right?
books.
Right? And that's important, right? Like,
Yeah,
you
it's
have a
important.
strong educational foundation, but again, your mom was like, "No," because somebody told you. She didn't say, "No, I don't think this is good for you. No, I don't think they have your best interest at heart." She said somebody told her that X, Y, or Z was gonna happen, and particularly around the money. And then you gotta think about, like, where our parents come from, right? Like, there's
Mhm,
this fear, there's this scarcity, there's, this scarcity
mhm,
mindset, like, we know we can't waste money or we don't want to be scammed or we don't, and that's those are honest fears, but how many times are those the things that are leading our decisions rather than the what's possible, right? Like,
right.
I think about even now, I hear people who are constantly like thinking about, well, what if this happens, or what if this happens, or what if this happens? And I'm like, well, what's possible? And that's something I have to ask myself, even, right? Like,
Right.
oh, what if this happens, or what if I don't? But what's possible? And when you
Yeah,
think about it that
absolutely.
way, and you're gonna win some and you're gonna lose some. Like, every risk that you take is not going to be profitable, but you can at least learn, but you will profit in a way of learning from that experience, saying, at least I know I tried this, or at least I can say I've done it. I might never do it again, or I've done it and I was, even though it didn't work, I'm still gonna try again. I'm not gonna give up.
Yep,
Mhm.
absolutely. So with that said,
Mhm.
we've had many, many, many great words today, and I want to leave you all with this. We're about thriving, not surviving, because living in survival mode is unhealthy for your nervous system.
Mhm.
It is unhealthy for your mind, your body, your spirit, and just thrive and learn to appreciate and have gratitude for the place that you're in now. Because again, God, show me how good it can get. It's only gonna
Mhm.
go up from here
Absolutely,
if you
absolutely.
if you stay grounded. So, Shanae, tell everybody where they can find you on social media and connect with you and tell everybody what you have going on.
Yes. So, if this conversation resonated with you, I'm telling you, Dominique gave you a really good preview of what I talk about in the book. You can find me at www.drshanadanielle.com or on social media at Dr. Chanee Danielle. There's probably some dots in there somewhere. I don't know, but I'm sure if you just put doc, it's not a lot of Shanae's out there. There are some, but it's not a lot of Chanee Danielle's out there. So, yeah.
Yes, and we'll also pin it in the show notes. So
Mhm.
thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Whiskey Sour Libations and Conversations. We'll see you back here next week.
Thank you.